Thank you very much, Marty. And first of all, thank you to everyone who's come here today. And thank you to the organisers. Where's Kelly? Kelly's here somewhere. Thank you very, very much. This is extremely important because it really is about what Marty was talking about. It's about control over our lives. It's not just about farmers. It's not just about fishers. It's about people in the city as well. The second thing I want to just say quickly before I start commenting on property rights is that there are 500,000 cattle dead in northwestern Queensland. There are farmers on the backs of their, well, they've just about had it. They've had years of drought. There are still farmers in Charleville suffering drought. But there are people in North Queensland who've just about lost everything. Townsville and Far West. So just think about them for a minute. So Marty's talking about control. What does a farmer have? A farmer has land. Property rights have been stolen. You don't have the right to do with your land what you bought it for. That's known in this state. The second thing that we have control over is the basic elements. I mean, the sun, we're now told, is not driving climate. We're told that water is a commodity that the government controls. We're told that carbon dioxide is a pollutant and it's essential for everything green. This is insane. It's a complete reverse of what we're supposed to be, what is reality. Then there's a third input into farming, and that is the human, the initiative, the understanding, the experience. That is extremely important because it turns all the other things into something that is essential for our life today. And they're being controlled. I know Lyle and Madonna Connolly from out at Mitchell Way, Dan McDonald from out at Charleville. These people have to go home at night after working 16, 17 hours a day and then pretend they're a lawyer because they're being prosecuted. That is not right. And they can't get defense. This is just so much against our freedom in this country. Basic property rights. So to understand the property rights argument, let me tell you something about the CSIRO. We've all heard about climate change, right? I asked the CSIRO as a senator for one piece of evidence that shows we're doing anything unprecedented in our climate. They came back and gave me one paper on temperature. One paper. 40 years of research, one paper. We demolished that paper and the CSIRO admitted to me, as sure as I'm here standing here, that temperature is not unprecedented. Today's temperature is not unprecedented. So what do we think of global warming? It's crap. The second thing the CSIRO said is there's no danger. They have never said there's danger from our carbon dioxide. Never. To any politician. So who's telling us that? Oh, you'd have to ask the politicians. We're being conned. And they're using that then to steal property rights. And it's bullshit. So John Howard in 1996 did a deal with Rob Borbidge to control farmers' property rights because he wanted to comply with the UN's 1996 Kyoto Protocol. We know some people know that, most people don't. So it's John Howard and Rob Borbidge. In 1998 it was moved on to John Howard and Peter Beattie. The the documents on the correspondence between those two men, John Howard in Canberra and Peter Beattie in this building, are in that building. They're on Hansard. In 2004 it was ramped up. Just recently with Palaszczuk and Trad it was ramped up. And now farmers don't have property rights. That's the first thing, because what got me intrigued with Marty when I spoke to him last week for about an hour and a half on Friday night, yeah, we both haven't got much better to do, so was he said this is an intellectual assault, this is an ideological assault on our rights, and he's absolutely correct. So I'll just rattle off a few other things. Fishing zones. Does anyone realise that in this country, our country, we have the world's largest continental shelf fishing zone. Bar none, the largest continental shelf fishing zone. And yet we have 36% of the world's marine parks in one country, our country. We have a tiny population of 25 million and we import most 3/4 of the seafood we eat. How can that be? Where are the fishermen here? What do you think of that? It's crap, it's complete crap. And it's based upon the UN. So climate change is a UN furphy, stealing of property rights is a UN crock, stealing of fishermen's rights is a crock. It's all manufactured. So where do we import our seafood from? Number one supplier of seafood into this country is China. We've got how many? 60 times the population we've got, tiny coastline, and we import our seafood from there 14%, 12% of our seafood from Thailand, which is a population of 3 to 4 times what we have, and a tiny, tiny coastline. This is nuts, because it is not about protecting the fish. It is about controlling us. Energy policy. The UN's Kyoto Protocol, 1996. The UN's Rio Declaration, 1992. The UN's Paris Agreement, 2015. We have farmers in the southern part of Queensland and the central part of Queensland can't afford to pump water because of electricity prices. Fact. Fact. And we're in a drought and we can't produce fodder. This is nuts. This is absolutely nuts. And then think about this. We have this metropolitan area of about 2 million people. Has a catchment area based upon Somerset. There's a large solar panel industrial estate going in there. Think of these 3 things coming from that. First of all, cadmium, lead, lithium, within the flood zone. Where will that all come? Into water into Brisbane, water into the Gold Coast. This is just crazy. These are poisons, they're toxins. This is the largest solar industrial estate in the Southern Hemisphere, potentially the world. 5.2 million panels. 10 kilometres long. They take the second thing, as well as being toxic, the second thing, they're taking prime agricultural land, high productivity beef country and tillable creek land, and they're turning it into low productivity industrial energy. That's so low density, it doesn't even run at night. It doesn't run quite often. This is nuts. We're taking prime land off farmers, and then the third thing is, think about this, because every one of us is paying for this. Every one of us. The company that's doing it is believed to be Chinese and affiliated with the Chinese government. We export prime coking coal to China, and they send it back as wind turbines because they make steel out of it. We export prime steaming coal, and they make electricity out of it, and because they haven't got the bullshit that we've got with renewable energy targets, control of energy, they generate cheap electricity, which makes them more competitive. They make solar panels, ship them here, then we subsidise them to install them and run them. And that drives up our electricity price even higher, which makes us less competitive. So what we're doing is we're exporting jobs, we're exporting industry to China. This would be like the Prime Minister in 1942 calling up the Japanese government and saying, would you like a few dollars to subsidise your bombs that you've just dropped on Darwin? This is nuts. 1975, the UN Lima Declaration killed manufacturing in this country. Murray-Darling Basin, UN's 1992 Rio Declaration came out of that with Turnbull, Howard, Wong and Burke, the same people who gave us the fishing zone restrictions. Oki, think about this. Beef farmers in Oki, they've had their water rights stolen off them. Not compensated, stolen from them. They've lost their land because of PFOS contamination from the Defence Department, and they won't acknowledge it. And they've lost their property rights. What more do you need if you're a farmer? Your land, your water and your property. All of them ripped out of them. That's what's going on right under our noses. Marty is absolutely correct. And I'm so pleased to support him because he's right. This is an ideological grab for the control of this country. Rural education. Campbell Newman shut down some of the departments or cut back on some of the employment, and the people out of the rural areas came out of the rural areas. They lost 3 teachers, 3 nurses, etc. They mean several more people by the time you add the people who serve them and the families. And when this woman is Premier here, put them back on, where did she get them from? Brisbane! What's happening to the bush? If you go to Charleville, you'll find out when you go to the hospital there. Transport, 1992 UN Kyoto Protocol. Farming, 1992 UN Rio Protocol. Water has been separated from property rights. Why are we selling water rights to people in Geneva, Canada, New York? Pension funds, why is that? Taxation, multinational companies in this country, the large ones, pay little or no tax, and that's been the case since 1993. Freedom. Think of this, you're PC. We can't say things because of political correctness. Think of the way our immigration is being controlled. Our education is being brainwashing, virtue signaling kids. This is all about control. Marty is absolutely correct. Immigration, UN Human Rights Council, headed up by people like Saudi Arabia. This is just a takeover of this country, an ideological grab. And I want to encourage you all, I've told you about the negatives, but think about the positives in this country. Is there a better group of people here in this planet than what we see? Fishermen, farmers. Is there anywhere in the world? We are fabulous. We've got an abundant climate. We've got plenty of good soil. The thing we haven't got is government will. So what I'd urge you to do after watching the people on the Murray-Darling Basin fight each other is stop fighting each other. Get together and fight the real culprits who've been pushing this UN stuff, who are the Greens. Fight the Greens. Don't fight each other. Don't squabble over how much water in the Murray-Darling. Fight on getting more water into the Murray-Darling. Fight on the lies that the Greens are telling us. I did a video recently on Cubby and I researched it. It's changing a lot of people's minds because it's based on fact. Have a look at it if you can. So call out the Greens. The third thing is to get back to the basics. Property rights, fundamental to freedom, fundamental to responsibility. Get back to our Constitution. It's been completely corrupted. Lloyd knows what I'm talking about. And then the rule of law. Common law has been tipped on its head and we're now slaves under statutory law. This is crap. It is our country. And Bruce right here knows that they're telling lies about the amount of land clearing and the types of land they're clearing. It's lies. And yet they're using that to get city-siders on side. Who's the true environmentalist in this country? Who? Farmers. Why? Because you don't want to waste money putting excess chemicals on the ground. You don't want to waste money putting excess fertilizer on the ground. And you don't want your topsoil to be lost. And yet these people in here are telling the people of Brisbane and Queensland that we need to control the farmers because the farmers are hurting us and hurting the reef. It's bullshit. So please do what Marty says. Don't just come here and appear. That's wonderful. But let's go home and talk, have these conversations. Belt your local MP. Tell the truth. Speak up. And above all, be very, very proud of being in primary industry, because you fellas, you're feeding us. And that is the last thing we have. So thank you very much. And Marty and Kelly, thank you.